Transatlantic cruises might be the best deal in travel, but they're not for everyone. Recently, I sailed from Miami to Southampton. I'll share what I loved, what caught me off guard, and I'll have some practical tips to help you decide if a transatlantic cruise is right for you. Hi, I'm Mike. I retired so I could travel, and this channel is the story of my adventures. If you want to cross the Atlantic by boat, you've got three options: Cunard's legendary ocean liner, repositioning cruises, and sailings on ships headed into dry dock. Each has its quirks, and I'll break them down, starting with the grandest of them all, the Queen Mary II. Cunard's Queen Mary is not a cruise ship, it's an ocean liner. Ocean liners have an excellent reputation, except for that one time.
Is there anyone there? Yes, iceberg, right ahead!
Fortunately, most voyages end with dancing, not drama. Cunard has been carrying passengers across the Atlantic since 1840, and the Queen Mary is a throwback to a golden age of luxury travel that dates back to before air travel was invented. One of the biggest differences between the Queen Mary and a typical cruise ship is the dress code. While most cruise ships have a relaxed approach to attire, think shorts and t-shirts even at dinner, Cunard maintains a more formal tradition. On the Queen Mary, evenings are an event. Many nights require at least a jacket for the gentlemen and elegant attire for the ladies, while formal nights take it up a notch with tuxedos, evening gowns, and a level of sophistication rarely seen on mainstream cruises. If you love the idea of dressing up for dinner and experiencing a touch of old world glamour, you'll feel right at home. But if you prefer a more casual vacation, the Queen Mary might feel a bit too buttoned up. A ride on the Queen Mary is surprisingly affordable. I went online and found an inside cabin for less than $1,200. I also found a cabin for two for less than $1,600. Not too shabby for a ride on the Queen Mary. The crossing from New York to Southampton, England takes just 7 days. Transatlantic crossings on the Queen Mary are frequent, especially during peak travel months. A few times a year, the ship turns right around for the return trip, giving you the option of a round-trip transatlantic journey in just 2 weeks. I got to spend a few days in London before flying home. London is only a couple of hours from the port and an easy trip by train or bus. Most transatlantic cruisings are actually repositioning cruises. In the spring, cruise lines move ships from the Caribbean to popular summer destinations such as Europe and Alaska. Come fall, those same ships travel back to the Caribbean for the busy winter season. Because these sailings are one way and not part of a regular itinerary, you can often find a great deal, especially if you're flexible with your travel plans. That said, these cruises only go one way, so you'll need to arrange travel on the other side, whether that's heading out or coming home. Before we move on, I want to thank you for watching. If this video is helping you plan or just daydream a little, I'd love to have you along for the next trip. Subscribing to the Solo Budget Traveler, that's the easiest way to tag along. And liking this video helps other travelers find it too. You can find better deals on dry dock cruises, but as the saying goes, you get what you pay for. The ship I sailed on was headed back to port for a month of refurbishment. I paid just $700 for an inside cabin. That works out to just $53.85 a day. The deluxe package came in under $1,500. I did splurge on the spa, which added another $400. Also, there was no solo supplement, which meant nearly half of the passengers were traveling alone. I even met two different couples who booked adjoining rooms so one person could sleep while the other worked. I'm not naming the cruise line or the ship I sailed. That's because several seasoned cruisers on board told me our experience was not typical for this line or even for this vessel, but it was exactly what they expected from a repositioning cruise. The seating wasn't especially comfortable, and a few guests who'd sailed the ship before told me the cushions had been removed, probably set off to other ships. The furniture was still functional, but some pieces were past their prime. On our sailing, there was just one production show that ran on repeat. We had 3 comedians, one of whom was genuinely funny. Live music options were very limited, and like the comedy, it was hit or miss. Instead of bands and performances, there was a heavy focus on trivia. The cruise director certainly earned his paycheck. Maybe it was just me, but after a few days, the games and quizzes started to wear thin. Aside from the price, experience, the friendliness of the other passengers was a huge plus on this trip. People are often friendly on a cruise, but more so on a voyage lasting nearly 2 weeks. There's no rush to get everything done, and particularly with so many solo passengers, it was easy to make friends. I would not recommend a transatlantic voyage if you're new to cruising, but if you know you enjoy being at sea, a transatlantic cruise is a great adventure. I grew up watching The Love Boat, and if you remember that show, chances are you too have an AARP card. The guest stars were often veteran Hollywood performers whose names I didn't always recognize as a kid, and many were, let's say, comfortably past their blockbuster years. So for a long time, I assumed cruising was mostly for older folks. That's not really true today, except apparently on a transatlantic cruise. I'm 63, and on this cruise, I was one of the younger passengers. Then again, that makes sense. The cruise lasted 13 days, and then I spent another 3 in London before flying home. Unless you're retired, it's tough to take that much time away from work and family. Personally, I enjoyed sailing with a more seasoned crowd, but if you're looking for a party at sea vibe or a wild weekend with friends, this probably isn't the itinerary for you. On the plus side, there was never a line at the water slides. I was worried about cabin fever on a transatlantic cruise. After all, it's not like you can leave if you get bored. But the cruisers I spoke with had the same concern, at least until they took their first crossing. There's so much to do on board, and with so many fellow passengers eager to meet new people, I never once felt restless. It turns out 13 days of someone else cooking and cleaning is pretty easy to get used to. Being at sea for 2 weeks takes a little wardrobe planning. I originally planned to use the ship's laundry until I sat in on a presentation about how it all works. The crew explained their industrial washers have more than 10 times the capacity of a standard home machine, and the water runs hotter than anything you'd ever have at home. Which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense. When you're washing clothes for a few thousand people, sanitation is a priority. Your clothes will certainly come back clean, but they might also come back a size smaller and a bit less vibrant. Then again, if your wardrobe starts feeling snug, you can always blame the laundry instead of the buffet. Speaking of food, it was fantastic. For nearly 2 weeks, I dined out 2 or 3 times a day, every day. And as much as I enjoyed it, I discovered that on a transatlantic cruise, indulgence has an expiration date. Restaurant meals are designed to dazzle your taste buds, not do your cholesterol or blood pressure any favors. Chefs aren't counting calories or watching sodium. They're aiming to impress, not win any wellness awards. By the end of the trip, I was dreaming of a kale salad with nothing but a squeeze of lemon. I have a terrible time with jet lag, so I thought a cruise would solve the problem, and to be fair, it helped. Just not as much as I hoped. We still crossed 5 time zones on our journey, just more gradually. If losing an hour for daylight saving time throws off your whole day, keep in mind we did it 4 times. It was like jet lag in slow motion. The ship was smart about spacing out time changes, usually adjusting the clocks about every other day. Even if you have a phone or watch that updates automatically, I recommend learning how to adjust it manually, because ship time doesn't always sync with GPS or local time. Some passengers say it's easier sailing west than east since you gain time instead of giving it up. At one point, the talk of the ship was that we were off course. No one seemed worried, we were just curious. Eventually, the captain came on the intercom to explain we were sailing south to avoid a major storm system. The North Atlantic has a reputation for rough weather, and this journey lived up to it. If you remember the game Operation, you'll understand the cruise version. I did my best to walk down the hall without bumping into the walls. At times it felt like real-life bumper bowling, only I was the ball. The captain even put caution tape across the doors to the open decks to keep passengers safely inside. One passenger joked that it's never a good sign when the crew starts putting out seasickness bags. If you're prone to motion sickness, be forewarned. The North Atlantic can definitely test your sea legs. So, will I go on another transatlantic cruise? Absolutely. In fact, I'll happily take another dry dock cruise in storm season if the price is as good as on this ship. The caveats I presented are minor when you consider that I had lodging, food, and entertainment for a daily price that even an overnight stay at a budget hotel could not match. In fact, my flight home cost more than the base cost of the cruise. But I will focus on finding crews sailing west so I gain hours rather than losing. Thank you for watching. I hope you check out my other videos and my history website, mrdowling.com. And until next time, bon voyage!